Europe stands at a crossroads, facing a moment of profound uncertainty and self-reflection. The continent, long celebrated for its unity and diversity, now finds itself pulled in different directions, unsure of which path to take. Its once unifying narrative, built on ideals of cooperation and shared prosperity, is now fractured by growing doubt and deepening division. The symbols that once inspired hope now seem fragile, even vulnerable. The dream of an ever closer union is clashing with a powerful resurgence of national identity. Across the continent, people are rediscovering old loyalties, and national pride is making a strong comeback, sometimes at the expense of European unity. Member states increasingly see Brussels as a distant authority, not a partner. Many citizens feel their voices are lost in the corridors of power, fueling frustration and skepticism about the European project. The core problem is a loss of shared purpose. Without a common vision, debates turn into arguments, and unity gives way to discord. What does it mean to be European today? For some, it's about open borders and shared values. For others, it's about protecting traditions and national interests. The answer is no longer clear. Without a compelling vision, the EU risks becoming a hollow bureaucracy, unable to inspire or unite its people. The danger is not just stagnation, but a slow unraveling of what once held Europe together. Security threats and economic anxieties only deepen the cracks, as each new crisis exposes the Union's fault lines. Instead of coming together, countries often retreat behind their own borders, seeking safety in isolation. Instead of solidarity, we see governments prioritizing their own survival, driving members further apart and making compromise ever more difficult. Europe's future depends on an honest conversation about its identity, one that includes all voices and perspectives before the drift becomes irreversible, and the promise of unity fades into history. While the war in Ukraine was supposed to unite Europe, forging a sense of common purpose and shared destiny among its nations. In the early days of the conflict, European leaders stood shoulder to shoulder, vowing solidarity and swift action in the face of aggression. But beneath the surface, dissent is quietly growing. While public displays of unity remain, cracks are beginning to show as the costs of war and sanctions mount. Countries like Hungary and Slovakia openly challenge EU consensus, arguing that sanctions designed to punish Russia end up hurting their own economies even more. Leaders in these nations voice frustration, claiming their citizens bear an unfair share of the burden. These nations use their position within the EU to block or dilute collective action, slowing decision-making and exposing deep divisions that are difficult to bridge. Every debate becomes a battleground of competing interests. Energy dependence and rising nationalist politics fuel this resistance. Leaders prioritize their own citizens' needs, especially as energy prices soar and public discontent grows, making compromise even harder. The clash between national and supranational interests is at the heart of the EU's struggle to act as one. Each country weighs its own priorities against the collective good, often leading to gridlock. Every new sanction or aid package for Ukraine becomes a test of unity, with negotiations often dragging on and ending in uneasy compromise. The process reveals just how fragile consensus can be. The Kremlin watches closely, ready to exploit these fractures and divisions within Europe, hoping to weaken the EU's resolve and undermine its support for Ukraine. Europe's challenge isn't just Russia. It's proving to itself and the world that it can function as a coherent geopolitical actor, capable of decisive action even under immense pressure. The real test is internal. Can the EU hold together under pressure? Or will internal divisions threaten the very unity it seeks to project to the world? A widening gap separates Brussels from the citizens it serves. Scandals and opaque decision-making fuel the perception of an unaccountable elite. Many Europeans see the EU as overreaching, imposing rules without clear benefit. This breeds resentment and empowers populists promising to take back control. The EU's complex language and distant leadership fail to connect with everyday concerns. Without a relatable narrative, support for the European project erodes. Rebuilding trust means more transparency, accountability, and genuine engagement with citizens. If people don't feel the union works for them, its foundations will keep weakening. The EU's promise of shared prosperity is undermined by deep economic divides. Wealthy northern nations set policies that don't always benefit the South and East, fueling resentment. The euro, while stabilizing, can be a straitjacket for struggling economies. Economic downturns hit some countries harder, deepening inequality and mistrust. True unity requires more than bailouts. It needs long-term investment and fairer growth. Without a sense of shared fate, economic strains will keep pulling the union apart. A fragile union of unequals can't sustain real solidarity. NATO, like the EU, faces its own crisis of cohesion. Diverging national interests and disputes over issues like Israel-Palestine fracture the alliance's unity. Over-reliance on the US breeds resentment and vulnerability to American political shifts. Many European members still fail to meet defense spending commitments, straining transatlantic ties. Historic rivalries like Greece and Turkey distract from NATO's core mission. When relationships are strained, collective strength suffers. NATO must manage internal rifts and rediscover a common vision to remain effective. The alliance's future depends on restoring trust and purpose among its members. With both the EU and NATO under strain, the question is unavoidable. Is the post-war European project crumbling? Nationalism, mistrust, and economic divides point to a system under immense pressure. Consensus-based decision-making, once a strength, now leads to paralysis. Adversaries like Russia and China exploit Europe's slow, fragmented responses. The continent faces a tipping point, continue disintegration, or choose a new path. The current model is failing to deliver security and prosperity. Europe must confront hard truths about cooperation and adapt, or risk irrelevance. The foundation isn't broken yet, but urgent action is needed to prevent collapse. A bold idea is gaining ground. Return the EU to its roots as a servant of nations, not their master. This vision would make Brussels a facilitator, not a top-down authority. Restoring strong national vetoes would ensure no country is forced into unwanted policies. Critics warn this could lead to gridlock, but supporters argue it would create a more legitimate, stable union. The European Commission would shift to a technical support role, focusing on cooperation where it benefits all. Sensitive issues would remain with national governments, respecting diversity. The goal, a Europe united by choice, not decree. True strength, they argue, comes from voluntary partnership, not forced uniformity. Europe's future depends on forging genuine sovereignty, defending its interests and values without being reliant on outside powers. In a rapidly changing world, Europe must chart its own course, ensuring that its voice is heard and its priorities are protected on the global stage. Achieving this vision begins with energy independence. By investing heavily in renewables like wind and solar, as well as safe nuclear power, Europe can reduce its reliance on imported energy. This transition not only strengthens security, but also creates jobs, drives innovation, and helps combat climate change. Political sovereignty means more than just unity. It's about speaking with one voice on the world stage. While respecting national differences, Europe must find common ground and align its policies for shared prosperity and security. Europe must take the lead in diplomacy, set the international agenda, and skillfully manage its internal divisions. Only by working together can it shape outcomes rather than react to them. Building this new Europe requires bold, visionary leadership and the active support of its citizens. It's a long-term project that demands patience, trust, and a willingness to embrace change for the greater good. The temptation to cling to the status quo is strong, especially in uncertain times. But the current crises, economic, social, and geopolitical, make it clear that the old ways are no longer sustainable. Europe possesses the resources, talent, and creativity to become a true global power. What's missing is the political will and unity to harness these strengths for a common purpose. The current identity crisis is not just a challenge. It's a unique opportunity to build the collective will and sense of purpose Europe needs. By focusing on clear, tangible goals and reforming its institutions to be more effective and responsive, Europe can emerge from this moment stronger, more united, and ready to lead in the 21st century.